Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's watch.
But he kind of looks to me to say, okay, are you going to assign rooms? I'm like, I don't do that. We've actually got 4 zones for moms, okay? We got one here and another one here. We've got one here, and then we've got one on the outside one.
When all the wives were deciding what room we thought would work better for us, Cody's like, what do you think, what do you think, what do you think?
Janelle, you wanted a section away from everybody else. Do you like this here?
No.
Ugh, this is just so infantilizing that it has to assign rooms for the children and the adult women. And they all have to appeal to him. If I were in his shoes, I would be like, can y'all just work it out amongst yourselves? I wouldn't want to be triangulated into that.
She just doesn't want to bother people.
I want to be able to get up in the morning and not wake everybody up.
I vote not being next to Janelle.
Christine, are you liking it here? Right here? Right here. No master bath.
And they didn't ask Mary what she thought.
Robin, if you're there, we have the 2.
I will say that this family style really lends itself to reality TV because they have a lot of informal and formal family meetings where they talk explicitly about tense topics. And it's interesting, Hunter, that's Hunter, right? He stuck around, I think voluntarily, during that whole fight between Gabriel and Garrison and Janelle. The whole time Hunter was right there. Pretty sure that's Hunter. And we also see Hunter here again, just hanging around while every other kid isn't. I mean, unless Hunter's like, oh, I'm waiting for them to be done because I want to ask them. I mean, maybe it's something like that, but I'm wondering if Hunter just likes to be there for his own anxiety. Yeah, some kids are like that. They will need to witness it so that they know what's happening because there's trauma there. So I don't know. I mean, it's impossible for me to know, but it's just notable that I've seen Hunter around in both of those fights.
Another mom gets to go into the other master.
I don't know.
Why are you forcing one of us to be there if nobody wants to be there?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
We're all kind of looking at him like, really?
I just backed off and let them decide. Sorry, you guys will figure this out. Here's the thing that was happening. Is a guy, me, in my position, this is beautiful because they were doing it themselves. And when I got involved, it's like, shut up and sit down.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it seems flexible. I'm not a fan of the polygamy patriarchy thing that's infused in this whole thing, but if you're going to be in that thing, then this is a good thing, I think.
It's perfect.
Good. So am I back out of the doghouse?
Love, goodness, right now, we have some things to work on, that's all.
What are we going to work on?
Our relationship.
Communication?
That'd probably be a good place to start.
So when I have new couples, I have a form that I have them fill out, and I think 100% of the time they will, I'm about to sneeze. I think I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. When I asked them what they wanted to work on, the couples would always say communication. And I totally respect that, and I think I understand what people are saying when they're saying that, but it's like saying when the Challenger blew up, the problem was the rocket. It's such an overarching, simplistic statement, right? A more specific statement would require that they have an ability to understand why they're having a problem with communication. In the same way that just understanding that the Challenger blew up because of a rocket, it doesn't really help you. But if you look more specifically, then you know it was, I think, something got knocked off from ice or something, like an O-ring or a...
You're afraid to, aren't you? Spend time together.
I don't think you want to be with me at all.
Sometimes it's just, I'm excited to come over, but I go over and it's like, what's going on?
Well, I think you wait till the latest possible minute to come over. You leave as soon as you can.
We've been busy a lot lately.
Okay, so Christine believes that he doesn't want to be with her, and that's good. I mean, it's good that she can say that, because other people would beat around the bush and say, like, a more passive thing, like, you don't come over quick enough or something like that. but she cut right to the chase and said, I don't think you want to be with me. And then he tries to give explanation, which is not horrible, but a better response. Well, all this hinges on whether or not he wants to actually be with her. I mean, one, I've already been over the whole polygamy. Is he actually polyamorous, which you would have to be in order to have that love and connection with multiple people. And there's a spectrum. But the other thing is that, sometimes you grow apart and you break up and you get divorced. That happens. It doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that it happens. And there's ways to prevent it, but sometimes it just happens. I've worked with couples that were some of the best communicators, the most differentiated, the most self-aware, the most healthy, and they just fell out of love, and then they would break up. That just happens sometimes. So now, typically, breakups happen because of a slow progression of hurt feelings and distance over time. But in another world, if they didn't have the rules that were imposed on this family, might Kody and Christine have been together for a certain amount of time, and then they broke up amicably, or that's another possibility. But because of the artificial power and control that's on top of them, that's not an option. From my understanding, they can't get divorced. There's just no possible way. So what I would want to do is I would want to pull him aside and say, tell me the truth. How do you feel about Christine? Do you want to be? Because if he doesn't, and I've actually had couples like this, not in this religious group, but in a different one. And that was the case. They came in and they had been given special permission by their leader to seek a secular therapist, because I believe the church leaders were ineffectual in helping the couple, and they were fighting a lot. And when they came in, I proceeded as normal. And sometimes I asked specifically, but I was given their demeanor and what they were wanting to do in therapy, I assumed that both of them, at least to some extent, wanted to be together. Now, sometimes I will ask very explicitly, as I've talked about in previous videos, but I don't remember doing it this time. And then later, maybe, session 5 or something, I learned that the wife has been done with the marriage for 10 years, maybe longer. She is just absolutely done. And I was like, oh, well, then what do you want to do? Or what's happening? Are you thinking about breaking up, divorce? Like what's going on? And the husband's right there. And I'm thinking if he hears that, he's likely going to want a divorce. Who wants to be married to someone that hates you, I mean, hate's a strong word, but well, it was up there. And they said, oh, no, we can't get divorced. It's completely against our religion. If we did, we would be excommunicated, all this kind of stuff. And I said, oh. So we had a long talk about whether or not they really wanted to be in this religion and whether or not there was any wiggle room there. In the end, there was no wiggle room, according to them. And I was tasked with helping them. They both had different goals, because he wanted to win her back, and I'm trying to remember what her goal was. I think she just wanted to enter into a holding pattern where they're neither married or divorced. They are married on paper, and they live in the same house, but I think, were living on different floors of the house, and were cordial but completely uninvolved with each other. Sort of like a separation or something. And it was, I did what I could, and they did what they could, and there was success along those lines. But it's a different scenario than if I were to work with two people that wanted to improve their relationship and make it as best as it could be. So with him, I would want to know, where is he on that? There's a way forward, but I also learned from Christine Pereira, who was in this group, and I don't know if they're adherents to this notion, but in order to get into the afterlife, or the good afterlife, not only do you have to have at least 3 wives, but you have to be in harmony. And there's a lot of debate as to what that exactly means, but in all likelihood, that means that all the wives have to feel good about the marriage. And everyone has to be getting along, right? So there's a possibility that he can't even admit to himself if he's fallen out of love, or risk, at the very least, not getting into the highest heaven, maybe even not getting to heaven, or I don't know. So I would really want to ask, but anyway, the way that they're communicating right now, she's very upfront, which is good. It doesn't mean that she's rational, though. There's a possibility that he is still totally into her, just as he's always been, and she is interpreting the Robin thing in a way that is ruining it for her, which makes their time together much more difficult. There's that possibility. There's also the possibility that he has been drifting away from her since Robin and isn't admitting it to himself, or might even be doing things to Christine that are really just uncool, like not living up to the expectations that he has agreed to. But anyway, so his response isn't horrible. As a couple therapists, I have a sort of gauge of these things. Like, there's so many horrible things he could have said in response to her, what she just said, and we'll rewind it. But it's not as good as what it could have been, which is, and this is what y'all should listen to, and I will listen to myself, because I swerve away from this all the time, that if someone is communicating, especially directly, about something that's very difficult for them, you want to address that fully and say, okay, so I'm hearing you say this. You don't want to start providing explanations, right? She said, I feel like you don't want to be with me. The first thing he should have said, or at least an early thing he should have said, is, wow, so you think I don't want to be with you? Wow, that's okay. And you have all these bullet points ready to go, like, well, but I've been busy. You're over-interpreting. Okay, put those aside just for a second and provide empathy, provide a full communication that you get what they're laying down. That can be all that's necessary sometimes. You don't even need to go to that bullet point list. You can just say, wow, tell me more about that. Well, I feel this vibe from you, like you just don't want to be with me. Wow, that must be awful. I'm so sorry that's happening. That's terrible. I don't want you to feel that way, and maybe I am doing something wrong. I'm so sorry. Plus, what she's saying isn't like, hey, you don't do the dishes. It's, I miss you, right? That's pretty explicit, right? I love you and I want more of you. So it's not an attack. It's an invitation. Let's rewind. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So a lot of us, including myself, we really wish that we had more time in the week, There's always so much to do. And if we don't watch it, we might pack our entire day with obligations, never taking any time for ourselves. I mean, think of all the things you would do if you had more free time, like going to lunch with a friend, or even, God forbid, going to therapy. But it's kind of a catch-22, because without therapy, we might be putting ourselves on the back burner, never allowing ourselves to take time for ourselves, to focus on us and our needs. So sometimes we just need to take that leap and allocate that 1 hour a week to therapy, that 1 hour a week just for us. Well, one place you can find a therapist is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. So never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
That'd probably be a good place to start.
You're afraid to, aren't you? Spend time together.
I don't think you want to be with me at all.
Sometimes it's just, I'm excited to come over, but I go over and it's like, what's going on?
Well, I think.
Okay, so he did say, I forgot that. He's like, I'm excited to go over, but then I come over and I'm like, what's going on? And that could be totally accurate and rational. In an earlier video, I talked about how there's a scenario here where I would understand both people, where she is getting jealous about Robin and is feeling, and also just is losing 1 day a week with him, right? And she is in a bad mood she's in a bad mood all the time, maybe particularly when she sees him. And then he comes over and he's doing a lot to accommodate, and he's trying, but it's just not getting through, because it's not going to fix it right away. And he starts to have a bad feeling over time, over repeating this process over and over. He starts to associate hanging out with her with negativity. And he convinces himself, but, I've got to stick it through. But when you come together, it's not its normal flow. And then she interprets that as evidence that he doesn't want to be with her, even though he does want to be with her. And it just starts to create these cracks. He starts to maybe even pull away because he's like, well, I think she wants space. I'm not sure. She seems annoyed with me. And then he might have some hurt feelings because he feels like he's being treated unfair. And then he starts to get a little snippy, and then she gets snippy, and then it's just a cascade, right? Just feeds off of each other. Now, there's also a possibility he's a complete dick about the whole thing. And we're not being told because they protect us from that information, or they're just not showing it. There's also a possibility that she's being completely unreasonable. I don't know. But anyway, so let's see how this.
You wait till the latest possible minute to come over. You leave as soon as you can.
We've been busy a lot lately.
I know. If we don't work on our relationship and we just ignore each other and play on our phone when we're together, then it doesn't really work.
You're accusing me.
I'm like saying both of us.
Okay, all right. I'm good with that.
All right.
Okay, that was good. Maybe it'll go a little bit longer here, but she is communicating. And, for some couples, even though I wouldn't watch this and say, wow, what great communication, sometimes a lot has been said here, and then the next time they're together, they both try not to be on their phone all the time. They both try to put effort. Like maybe after this conversation, Christine will go, well, maybe he does want to be with me. He's putting in effort. He was the one who initiated this conversation too. And maybe for him, he would be like, oh, I thought she was just punishing me, but she misses me. He reached out physically. That's really great. He's about to do that. That's a very good sign. One, it's a good way to soften the mood. He also is doing a lot of facial expressions that are happy and light to lighten the mood, because it could be quite heavy if he was just staring at her. And she's responding to it. And then she relented, right? She's like, oh, be on your phone. And then he's like, you're saying that of me, because he's thinking, well, you were doing that too. And then she said, well, okay, both of us. So they're both, they're making moves to accommodate each other. So there's a lot of good signs. Maybe this will all work out.
Love you.
Me too.
Oh, the other good sign, if this can happen, especially under tension, is that it shows that there's still a thread there. Because if you've ever broken up with someone and maybe it's a suggestion in your head, or maybe someone says, you really should try to hold their hand, or maybe you should try to hug it out. The last thing you want to do, and you just can't do it. It's sort of like when Garrison and Gabriel were fighting, and the younger Gabriel was just like, I don't want to hug him right. When you don't like someone, it's really hard to be warm physically with someone. So to have this ability tells me that there's still warmth, there's still togetherness, there's still goodwill. At least it's a sign of it. I don't know if it's true, but it's a good sign. All right, let's adjourn there. So I want to give a shout out to the middle tier YouTube members. We have Christina. Thank you so much. You became a member as of today, it looks like. So thanks a lot for that. Anne Marie Myers, thank you. Rose Hippolito. Risa T. Sunshine Webb, thank you so much. Beatrice Carter, Selena, Michelle Lynn, Ship Fantastic. It's also nice to see your faces in the profile picture, because it's just feels like you see my face all the time. Kindle, Aditi, Melissa W, good old Colette Fair, who is wonderful. Penelope, Salvador, Hedda Lettuce, Zoe, Mariotti, Anna Cabrita, Kayla Sage, Shana, probably Blake, Akin, Eliza's Outie? Eliza's Outie? Is that your name, or is that like a pun? Anyway, Amber, Brian Bites, Junie Desiree, good old Junie Desiree. You can check out her YouTube channel. She does journals. She makes journals and scrapbooks. Paola Mori and Brittany Lopez. Thank you so much for being a middle tier patron. Some of you have been patron. Some of you have been middle tier members for a long time, for 14 months. Those people are Brittany, Paola, Junie, Beatrice, Brian Bites, and Amber. You have been middle tier patrons since the very beginning, 14 months ago. So that is wonderful. It's one thing to become a member, which is great, but it's another thing to like stick with it because then I can like feel like I have a future. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.